believed in something for a long time. Today, I want to share with you my testimony and how I got to this point from being a non-believer, but a believer in the universe, to being on fire about God and wanting to share that with as many people as I possibly can. And I hope that my story touches at least one person and you start your walk with Jesus too, because it is one of the greatest and most fulfilling and powerful things that I have ever experienced in my life in such a short period of time. Hey girl, it's Yolanda. Welcome back to my channel. I completed my first ever Daniel fast. As much as I want to talk about completing the Daniel fast, I really do feel it's so important to share how I made my way to God. Now, he's always been there, and I firmly believe this, because when you start to get into it, there have been just things that have happened in my life, and there is no way that that has not been God every single way. So even if you don't have a relationship, you feel far, you don't believe, I promise you, like, he's just waiting for a lot of us to, like, come to him. And I believe that Ralphie was the conduit to me getting to him, to be honest, because it wasn't until Ralphie was ill and I had no clue what was going on with him that God was like, come on, I got you. In case we've never met, I'm Yolanda. I'm a former ICU nurse turned freelancer and content creator. I've been creating content and sharing my life on social media now for over 8 years. I'm 40 years old and never have really had a relationship with God or opened a Bible or anything like that. It was not something that I was brought up around. My mom, she was a church kid, and like many church kids, had this, sour taste in her mouth about church, and she didn't want to impose that on me as a child. And I am grateful for that, because at this big age of 40, I'm really able to draw my own conclusions, and nothing is being pushed or forced upon me. So I'm very grateful for that. But I also wish that I had found Jesus about 20 years ago, because it's one of those things where you can't help but to think how your life might have transpired or where you might be. But the reminder is, girl, you are right where you need to be. So trust and believe. I was somebody that was deep into psychics. I used to see a psychic every single month for insight on my life. I had dabbled in psychedelics. I was drinking. I was partying. I was doing all the things. I was living my life the way that I had only known to live it without this relationship with God. It used to really rub me a very weird way when people be like, I'm keeping you in my prayers, or I'm praying for you. And I was like, ugh, like it would make my skin crawl. But as I started being really inspired by certain people and their journeys with faith, and them being really open in their faith, I was just intrigued. And bonus to me and my personality, I'd say, and something I'm really grateful that God has given me, is the gift of open-mindedness. And so while sometimes it would make me cringe for people to talk or say things about God or Jesus, I was always like, There was a moment 3, if not 4 years ago, when I first started working with my company, and we were out to dinner, and I sat across from someone's husband, and the enthusiasm that he had about Jesus and his religion and his faith was remarkable to me, but I was very closed off, okay? This is the time I'm drinking, I'm popping Molly, I'm doing psychedelics, and it, again, just part of life. And so my hope in sharing my journey and my testimony is that whether you have fallen off of your faith journey, whether this is all completely new to you, or you're just simply seeking and you're looking for positivity and stories that maybe you can relate to, and really just come like, yeah girl, keeping it real. This is how life has been, and it doesn't have to be perfect. God doesn't need you to be perfect. I recorded a video about some of the things that actually kept me back from finding Jesus. I don't know everything. I am not an expert. I literally just dove into this head first, but it's been because I've had this open-mindedness around it. And I also believe just the fact that I'm not a Bible kid or pastor's kid or anything like that, that I am just this little virgin when it comes to religion and the Bible. And so that really is a benefit. So if that is you, bestie, let's go. What led me to God? Summer of 2024, I kept having this, I want to go to church. And I was talking to some friends and coworkers that I knew had shared their faith and just was curious. I've had this pull to go to church, something that I have never done unless it was for a wedding or a funeral. Something I heard somebody say that really stuck out was people give things to the universe, but have you tried giving it to God? And I do think that people that have faith or belief there is something greater and bigger and maybe bigger than the universe, because what created the universe? So here I am on my way to not even necessarily meet God or anything like that, but to explore my curiosity and see if there is something that I can start believing that I can give my weight, my burden, and the heavy that I carry around to something else. So stay tuned. Girl, my face and like whole body is, I feel like I look different. And yes, hair might be a little bit different, but I feel like I just look different. There is a energy in my face. There is a confidence in my voice and the way I'm carrying myself. It is just a little bit different. And I mean, rightfully so. I fasted for 21 days. And girl, when I got into that church, and just even during the worship at the beginning, I was bawling. And it was like, where is any of this coming from? That moment, it still brings up so much emotion because I was just like overcome with just feelings. And oh my gosh, I didn't necessarily feel comfortable and at home, but I felt that I was being led exactly where I needed to be. From 2024, I would dabble in and out of church. I was just attending online. And then I'd say, I don't know when the shift was, but I didn't go to church the very first weekend of the new year. I think I went the weekend after. And I'm so grateful that I was just like, I'm going to wake up and actually go to church on this particular day. So fast forward a couple weeks, my dog, he is sneezing uncontrollably. And I'm like, what is going on with you? Like, this doesn't make any sense. I took my dog to the pet ER because it was like, this is not normal. I'm with my dog legitimately 24/7. It's a little unhealthy. We are very codependent. I just assumed like the vet would be able to look up his nose and know. And this went on for a week. So it came about me really having to seek and look and find answers and get my dog the diagnostics that he needed. At the end of December, I said, I want to wake up every day and meditate so that I can say that I meditated for 365 days of the year. And I started out really, really strong for 3 weeks, which is actually kind of crazy when I think about it. I got to 3 weeks of constant meditation, but it just wasn't sitting with me. Something felt like this is just not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to be just sitting like kumbaya. There was something else. And what I eventually, a couple days it took me to realize, I was like, I think I need to be praying. But I did not know how to pray, but that was what was on my heart. That was the pull that I was having. My journal here from the very beginning of January. And it's important to note that I was not consistently writing or journaling for a while. And I typically am a writer. I love writing down my feelings, but I just had fallen into a really kind of hole in 2024. I unexpectedly had a chemical pregnancy and just was really unhealthy, was not taking care of myself after all of that. And I believe it was this self-sabotage. It was this darkness. And I am not a depressed person, but I think if I were to look back, it was like, honey, yes, you're not a depressed person, but this might be a little depression because there was just so many emotions all at one time. But even still, that did not necessarily lead me to jump in and start going to church or anything like that. I'm trying to write and journal and meditate every day. And I also started running at this time. So at the very beginning of December, I say, I'm going to start running. Girl, for what? I have ran a full marathon, several half marathons, lots of 5Ks in the past, But I just had not been active at all. And I had gained weight. Like, I was like, I'm 4'9". I was a little chonk. Like, I've seen the scale up at 119, 120, and it really does. It carries in my face. So all this stuff is going on with Ralphie. I'm taking him to the vet. The vet's like, it could be a fungal thing, something in his nose, all the way to it could be the C word. Now, I already told you, me and this dog are extremely codependent. I'm with him, have been with him since I quit my job in 2016, outside of us going on vacation. That is the only time I've not been with my dog. I'm writing, and it's just like really basic stuff. Nothing so crazy, but at that time, my friend Christy really jumped in, and she started helping me like call vets because we need to get this little boy diagnosed. And I was stopping at nothing to figure this out because vets in Austin where we live, we had to wait, and we had to wait for weeks. And I'm just thinking to myself, I cannot imagine my dog sneezing for 3 weeks straight and me just not knowing what's going on. And you know, you can get down the whole of like Google and it's just not good. Oh, this is like the turning point. On January 8th, I write, we got Ralphie scheduled for his scope. Thank you. I ask for you to keep my boy protected and healthy. I've been realizing that this is possibly my time to see what you can do, while also remaining open that you have a plan for me, which I cannot see / may not agree with. It is the ultimate trusting, surrendering, and asking for what I need, while believing that you can hear me. Do I call you God? Do I call you Jesus? Girl, this is literally, I'm telling you, like, brand new, wet behind the ears, newborn baby Christian over here. I don't know the difference, but that's just a Google search away. And asking specifically to cover my Ralphie with your love. I was a ball of emotions when all this was going on. Yeah, that's really when I opened up. So January 8th is where I really opened up and I started talking to God. On the 9th, it was Dear God. We had gotten a quote for Ralphie and we were going to be able to do it, but they weren't going to be able to get him in right away. And so this is where I was like, this isn't right. I'm going to keep calling around, figuring this out. And I will never forget the vet that I called. It probably was like legitimately the 14th or 15th vet that I called. And she was like, oh, well, maybe you should go here or here because they would definitely have people on staff. And then on January 13th, and this was the day before Ralphie and I were going to make the trek all the way to Houston for him to be seen by a specialist. Dear God, and this is... kneeling and praying is still very awkward for me. But, dear God, I dropped to my knees tonight asking for your protection and strength to let everything with Ralphie be okay. I'm not sure what's going on with him, but I trust you. I am ready to walk with you. And this was on the 13th, and then this is important. Help me navigate this which feels hard and impossible. Please guide us safely on our journey tomorrow. Please send us a kind doctor who has Ralphie's best interests in mind and loves what they do. Please be sure I have the means to take care of my little guy. That was a huge thing for me. He is so much to me. I just love him dearly. Thank you for sending him to me. He was always waiting. Perhaps as you've been waiting for me. I am here. Please continue to show me the magic of you, the father I never had, yet the father that's always been there. I pray Ralphie is healthy and has no underlying issue. In your name I pray. Thank you. And then that day, I also I went to my first Bible study. And I think it's just crazy too, me saying I'm ready to walk with you, help me navigate what feels hard and impossible. And it just was like setting me up in such a beautiful way. So that was on a Monday that I said, I'm ready to walk with you. Now I need you to hold on to that being January 13th because I'm going to wrap this around and make it real significant, okay? Specifically that I said, I am ready to walk with you. On January 14th, it was, thank you, God, today was the day. My guy was okay. Thank you for orchestrating us making it safely to Houston, having and creating the funds for Ralphie's care, having a clear diagnosis, getting us back home safely. And my good friend Christy, at this time, when I was crying about Ralphie's finances, I had no clue how I was going to afford this. I had care credit and I had some space on that, but it was not going to cover it. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can call my mom and ask her, but I really didn't want to do that. I don't have a credit card that I could just throw this on. And I have remembered like days before going into Klarna and looking at something, and it was like, you have this purchasing power. And I'm like, huh, that's weird. And so the doctor had come in with a care plan for Ralphie. I opened up this Klarna app, and it allows me to create a virtual card like that on the dot. So I'm able to Apple Pay and use that card and use my care credit and cover all of the procedure that Ralphie needed. And I ended up getting a credit when we were leaving the vet, and they were like, we were checking out with his meds, and she says, oh yeah, $6.17 credit. And I thought she meant $6.17 was the credit. No, ma'am, it was $617 as a credit. And then they had screwed something up, and I owed them $200 more. But either way, it was all these little things, like God was like, come on girl, I got you, watch me work. My friend Christy was just so instrumental in all of this, keeping me calm, praying, guiding me, helping us. And she, that day when we were driving home, she was like, I'm gonna start a GoFundMe. You need to learn how to ask for help. And we started a GoFundMe, and like by the end of the night it was almost at $1,000. And I was just so moved, so overwhelmed. And again, this was like, look at God, right? There was, from us driving all the way up to Houston, the vet being like, we usually don't do this. Let me see if we can get you guys in. Me being in that waiting room, so broken, so terrified about what was going to happen, how I was going to afford this. God coming through. I know people have all the issues with credit, but it was like, I got you. We got this. Like, you're going to get through. The vet calling once Ralphie was done and out of anesthesia and waking up and saying that the CAT scan, they didn't see any masses or anything like that. And it was just like, okay, like, I'm believing in something. And so I was then at this point asking, how do I repay you? Truly, I feel blessed, and I'm absolutely exhausted. And I just said, you heard me. I'm grateful. I'm sorry it took this long. You can't help but know that it's real. Oh, I put on eyeliner too. I'm just so moved. I look forward to watching you work in your mysterious ways, marveling in your creation, your wisdom, and your selflessness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's not forget that on January 13th, I said, hey God, I'm ready. Like I wrote to my main man, and I said, I'm ready. And then on January 19th, I go to church, and I am going to actually play the story that I shared about what I believe was literally God 100% moving through this woman that randomly sat beside me at church. When I tell you I was so incredibly moved today, I mean it. There was a woman that sat beside me, and when she came into the row, I was just like, wow, like she has like really good energy. Like I just paid attention to it. And she just, in so few words, made me feel so comfortable. And I had this overwhelming sense of, I'm just supposed to be here. And like, this woman is supposed to be right here. And I recorded something, and she's like, oh my gosh, you're gonna have to airdrop that to me. But because her energy was just, and we're like in our own little, worlds, whatever. But her energy was so potent that there was a section of the service today where Pastor Ethan just said, will you raise your hand? And he asked 3 questions. And I felt like it was okay. I'm new to all this, but it felt okay to raise my hand. And I swear it was partly because of her energy was just like, be here. Like, I don't know how to explain it, because we did not say anything more than like, hey, like traffic was terrible, and her asking me to airdrop her what I had just recorded. Like, so wild. And I am very open about whenever I physically go to church, I'm always moved to tears. I don't know. Well, we know what it is, right? But it's just like this presence, this thing, it's so big. And just that woman today, when we left, and she turned around and she was like, have a good weekend or something. It was so small, but it was so impactful. And like my mind, I have not missed a week of church. I'll either go on Saturday or Sunday since all this happened. Literally in my calendar is a standing date now because it's so important to. They don't say this at every sermon, but at the end, the pastor asks 3 questions. Are you ready to walk with Jesus? I raised my hand, yes. They asked, do you need a miracle? Like, are you going through some health-related thing? That was not prevalent to me. And then the 3rd question was, are you ready to walk with Jesus and change the world? And I said yes. That was the first time I'd ever really raised my hand in church because, again, brand new baby Christian over here. Some things just feel awkward. Some things feel like I'm not used to them quite yet. And so I raised my hand. Come that Monday, I have a meeting with my boss and another person in our department, and I'm like, kind of weird, whatever. And before I had this meeting, I looked at my boyfriend and I said, I just have this feeling I'm not going to have a job by the end of this meeting. And then I get on the Zoom and the CEO was the first person that popped on. And I was like, oh, I know exactly what this is. And no hard feelings or anything. This was something that I truly need to happen because when I go back and I was like raw dogging in my journal, which is just like that intense, crazy writing, I have been asking for that. I have been asking for a way out of my position and I just never would have done it on my own. And so God works in really mysterious ways and always has your back. And so I feel that it was really important for me to share a little bit of my testimony before sharing the part of my Daniel fast so that you know where I was. I literally feel that God snatched me. He was like, I know this dog is your whole life, and girl, I'm gonna get you. Like, I am so ready for you. I'm gonna tell you like a weird story, and I know like if you are super Christian, you don't believe in mediums and all this stuff, or that mediums are kind of, there definitely are people that know, but it's more of this demonic energy telling them the things that they know. But back in 2010, 2011 or so, way before I knew about Ralphie, before I even knew about his breed, I had never heard of his breed. I went to this medium and she said, oh, there's a little white dog waiting for you. And he's so excited. I can't remember if she said if it was a he, but it's so excited for you. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool, girl. What? I don't have no white dog. Don't know a white dog. Like, what are you talking about? 2 years later, I found Ralphie's breed and I was like, sold. And it wasn't, I hadn't made this connection of, yeah, this lady said I was going to have a white dog or that there was a white dog waiting for me. It was just, this is just the dog for me. Almost was foreshadowed that Ralphie was going to be in my life back when I was not necessarily a believer of Christ. That's a little bit of my testimony. I don't have anything crazy. I wouldn't say, oh, I was at my rock bottom. But since finding and walking with Jesus, what I will say is I have a peace about me that I have never had in my life, ever. When my position was eliminated, I felt sad for maybe a day. Okay, girl, maybe 2, because I did have a day where I laid around and did nothing. But I felt this weight lift off of me. This just all been God preparing me. Okay, so Ephesians 3, verses 14 to 21. In church, they only read part of this, and it's prayer for spiritual strength. For this reason, I bow my knees before the Father, from whom every family in earth and on heaven is named, that according to the riches of his glory, he may grant you to be strengthened with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. I've never read this entire part until right now, and I promise you that before I even started this video, I just prayed and I was like, help me find the exact words. And this is just hitting me. That according to the riches of his glory, he may grant you to be strengthened with power through his Spirit in your inner being. I'm just a crybaby. I be crying all the time. And it's not sad. It's feeling so touched, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you being rooted and grounded in love may have strength to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and the length and the height and the depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with all fullness of God. And here comes my little God dog. Hey, Bubby. Right on time. Come on, sexy. Oh, right on. Like, ooh, you can't make this stuff up. I'm on the microphone, guys. Now to him who is able to do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think, according to the power at work within us. To him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. I've never read that again fully, but that is a word. Save. Like that whole thing is so lit right there. Girl, please. Prayer for spiritual strength. Thank you, Bobo. You looking tears. My just overall testimony, how God came to me through this little one. I really do think that Ralphie is a conduit in ways that I cannot explain. Okay, Marks. Gotta protect my mama. But really just that Ralphie just being such a big part of my life in a way. And the thing that I needed. This was going to be the thing. God knocks. He's probably been tapping you in one way or another for a long time. And I will say that I believe that when I was seeking psychedelics or the psychics and witches and reading oracle cards and getting tarot readings and all this stuff, it was essentially me seeking something. But in that seeking, it was like wrong door. I don't want to say wrong door. I want to say wrong door, right time, if that makes sense. Wrong door in I'm opening up for psychics, but right time because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready, like, for all the ways that God was going to move in my life. I was not ready for that at that time. We all get where we need to be in the time that we need to get there. I don't want this to drag on. I'm going to make this part 1 of 2 of my Daniel fast. And part 2, I'm actually going to go through what pulled me to fast, my experience with that, the takeaways from that. But again, I just come to you so humbly and transformed after those 21 days. It's been at least a week and a half since the end of my fast technically ended, and I really wanted to set in the takeaways before I did a Daniel fast. So much has changed in me of how do I wake up and serve God, and I really do feel that in sharing being this crazy wild woo. And I know that there's going to be a part of me that will come back into that. It's just I'm being refined to the point where I have stopped saying cuss words. I can get through it. I've been recording 36 minutes. I've not dropped one single swear word at all. It's this fine tuning that I'm in a season of fine tuning. He is pruning his jungle and preparing me for what I don't know. But he's calling me to show up and speak and to share, and how it is landing and resonating with people. It's so powerful that this is no longer about me and building a following and all these things, but essentially waking up and using my voice, sharing my experience to ultimately serve the kingdom and to bring more people. And I know it sounds so crazy to think about from where I was just 6 months ago, but really to bring more people towards him. Thanks for hanging in, sticking with me. I feel like I might pin this to my YouTube channel so people just know how I got where I've been. But when I really reflect back on my life, leaving my career, things lining up, opportunities that I've had, it's all been God just protecting me in a way. Just having his hand on me so firmly, even when I didn't have my heart with him. But I think he knew that I would eventually come and be like, yeah, here I am, knock, knock. I'll listen to sermons and people that are just further ahead of me in their journeys. It's so beautiful. And imperfect people, gangbangers, people that used to be strippers. Can I say that on YouTube? Dancers. And them just being so open about where they've been. And it's those stories that have been so encouraging. Girl, you don't have to be perfect to be loved by God. And so I hope that in finding that in myself and also knowing how powerful it's been to hear other people's testimonies, that I hope in my own testimony that there's at least one person that can find the, oh, I'm here. I've been there. I'm struggling. And I hope that my story touches at least one person and you start your walk with Jesus too, because it is one of the greatest and most fulfilling and powerful things that I have ever experienced in my life in such a short period of time. And I'm so excited for you to be here. I love you.
Bye guys, we'll see you for part 2.